So the busted coverage play on 3rd and 12. What is Kendall's responsibility there, and what is the conversation like at the line of scrimmage when your three guys are communicating about who's going with who?
Yeah. One thing, you guys know I don't like talking scheme here, but that is exactly what you said. It was a busted coverage. It was a miscommunication, a frustrating miscommunication on a lot of levels, and obviously anything that's reflective on the field is reflective of me, and I got to make sure the guys do a better job of that. When you're rotating guys, and it's not just Kendall. I want to make that clear too. Because there's a couple guys, and Marquis was in on that play as well, and so it's a shared responsibility of how do we want that coverage played. And the unfortunate part is we played that coverage a dozen times in that game probably before that and executed it correctly. So part of that, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but it's inexcusable, and I think the guys know that it's unacceptable, and we got to make sure that we don't do that.
You played that coverage with that personnel that many times?
No, I don't know if it was with the same group, and that's part of it, right? Because Duke got hurt as a nickel just before that. I forget what series or how many series before that, but he had just gotten hurt, so we had a new nickel in there. But in terms of practicing it, there was really only one way we had a plan to play that coverage, and we didn't execute it.
Did you get to the root of what caused the communication breakdown in that moment?
Yeah, no. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We got to the root of it. Yeah, we got to the root of it. And quite frankly, I'll be honest with you, when I'm up in the booth, I didn't know what the root of it was, because it was that unexpected. But as soon as you get down, you need a little bit of time. You watch the tape, you find the root, and then we talk to the players about it, and everybody knows where the accountability stands, and it always starts with me. But in terms of the execution, everybody knows where we need to be and how we need to make sure things like that don't happen in critical situations, which unfortunately for us, they've happened.
What's the fix? It's simple as two guys talking to each other. What's
Yeah, no, that's it. It's that, and really, there's a couple layers, right? It starts through the week of preparation. It's engaging, and I'm not saying we're not doing this. I think the guys are doing it, but it's straining through the meetings and engaging through that, understanding what the processes are, understanding when, in that instance, when a bunch comes up, what we're playing and why we're playing it that way, which we did in the game, and for one play we didn't, and it was the biggest play in the game.
Communication breakdowns and busted coverages have happened kind of throughout the season. From your standpoint, is there anything you change from a teaching standpoint or maybe otherwise?
Yeah, no, like I told you guys last week, every week I come back and reflect on all of our processes, and so ironically last week we changed the process. And we unfortunately, not unfortunately, I think it was for the better. I think the players said it was for the better, where we emphasized really the 2-minute as one of our last meetings, and the routes that we were going to get, and we had they know exactly going into the game of what calls would be up in certain situations and why, and and obviously on that particular one, there's, like I told you guys, I always go back and recall the game, and there's of course a better call in that situation where there's no chance of that thing happening that way, and that's something I got to live with. But on the other end, that call that we call in that game resulted in 5 sacks, 5 of the 6 sacks on that same call. So, you're half in one and half in out the other, and we just didn't execute, and that starts with me, and the players know where they've taken their accountability and their ownership of it, and they know where we got to improve, and the only kind of, and it's not even a positive, but the quick turnaround helps at least try to snap into the next opponent faster.
Kendall, they kind of stayed away from Jalen in that game. Is Kendall going through an especially rough patch right now?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fair to qualify that way. And it's like anything, so in San Fran we got hit with the wide receiver screen, right? And 2 plays before that they called the penalty on it. Then we got hit with that one, and then since then we've been pretty good against them. And usually in this league you got to take about 3. It takes about anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to kind of eliminate a fire that you've set out there. And so, yeah, I would say Kendall's kind of been in a little bit of a rut. and it's hard, when you're the only corner getting targeted, because like you said, Jalen's targets have been down, and Jalen puts out his fire because he got that one target early in the game, where again, to his credit, he knew what was happening. They went to a motion where it was 4-by-1, and he knew the only route that person runs is an in break, and so he got a PBU on it. And that's through his preparation and his study and him understanding what's happening. And so all of a sudden he eliminates that fire, right? And that's kind of how game flows go from play calling perspectives and things like that. They're like, oh, well, we can't go to Jalen anymore. And so they went to Kindle, and they went to him often. And he's a young corner. I mean, what is this, the 16th or 20th start? He's going to have to go through those growing pains a little bit. He's got to endure it, and then it's a good challenge for him to kind of make sure he's mentally tough enough to go through that. And we're here to support him to go through that, and then we got to make sure that we help him out when we can help him out, and even if it's rotation, whatever it is that we got to do to make sure that that he's put in situations that he can excel in to help him kind of come out of it.
To that point, Sean, with a player like Builder, when he's struggling, how do you know that it's just part of the process of becoming a good quarterback, or maybe this is just exposing him for the level he's at, for where he's at, defining him? How do you know, or are you wondering yourself, or how do you know? How can you make that differentiation?
Oh, I don't know, because he's like a good example is probably the week before. I think he got targeted 6 times or something. It was 3 of 6, but then those other 3 are some one PBU, some other incompletions and things like that. So he's winning some, but he's also losing some, and the ones that he's losing are a function of a lot of different things, whether it's techniques, eyes, communication, fundamentals, leverage, all different types of things. When you're a corner out there in different coverages, there's a lot of different things that can happen to you. And so it's just a matter of him, and I actually had a nice talk with him yesterday about just kind of taking a little bit of a deep breath and kind of regrounding himself a little bit in terms of where he feels he's at, where we think he's at, and where his technique and fundamentals got to go and improve in this defense.
I don't know if you have many options, but in your situation, is it tough to have a longer leash with someone like that to allow them to go through these things?
Yeah, I think.
To make a change and get somebody in there who
Yeah.
can do the job better.
No, that's the art of it, I guess. And that's the balance of it. You gotta play with the guys that we've got, and we trust the guys that we've got to go out and execute our plan at the standard that we want to be executed. And so whether it's him or whoever's in the game, like in that last couple series, Marquis was in the game at nickel, right? We trust him to execute the defense the way we wanted it. Whenever Deion Bush is in there, DeAndre Houston-Carson's another good example, who hasn't had many reps. And when he's in there, he's got to execute the defense. Christian Jones in that game hadn't played many stack ILB reps. He was in there to try to execute the defense at the level. Ladarius Mack went in and played. So our standard, and I've told you guys this, our standard's not changing. And I know the performance isn't really the end result isn't indicative of how we want to play, and we understand that. And the truth is we got to finish better, right? Because we played 59 minutes and 15 seconds again here. That was a high level football now, and I want to make sure our guys know that. I made sure they know that, because we've held that team to the lowest yards per game, under 300 yards, the lowest yards per play, 3.9 yards per play. To do that to any team in the NFL is pretty good. Now, we didn't finish. So you can't do that, and that's the lesson that we're learning. We're learning how to finish, and we're learning how to strain for 60 minutes mentally to make sure that we can execute our jobs and do our 111s, and include me in that, do our 112s.
How have you seen Travis Gibson develop, and how would you kind of quantify the opportunity he's got before him now?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity, given where the depth chart or that room is going. And I think he is continuing to develop. And you see spurts of him getting better, with his hands at the point of attack, his conversions and his pass rush. Things that Coach Shuey has been working on him with and emphasizing with him. He's straining his body and his mind to try to improve on those. And it's still a process. He's not where he wants to be, and I don't think he's where we want him to be. But he's still another young player who hasn't played many football snaps in this league, and so we got to make sure that we develop him and build him up to our standard. And he did a good job in that game for us.
How would you characterize the game that Roquan had?
Somebody else asked me that. there was a couple superstars on that field for us. You know, Roquan being one of them and Robert being the other. And in games like that, your superstars got to play like superstars, and they did. And you know, it's a high-level football game. Now, there's not many inside linebackers that are making that many tackles against that run team. You can just go back and look at it. So for him to be able to be all over the field the way he was in the run and the pass and challenge and see the way the ball is, because I told you guys the week before, they're going to challenge every single gap, and it's going to be all 11. And we were really good with all 11 for a long time in that defense, and then we were not really good for a couple plays with all 11. And that's how they get you. And that's how they got us. And that's totally on us and me. But Roquan, the level of play that he's playing at right now is a little bit out of this world.
Both Roquan and Robert showed a lot of emotion after the game and were clearly disgusted with not coming through with the way that they probably individually felt like they played. Do you like seeing that? Do you feel bad for them feeling that way? How do you react to it?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is an emotional game. And I think it's okay for guys to have emotion and fire, you know, because that shows that they care. And obviously you guys saw whatever you saw visibly from them, you know, through the, I guess on TV or whatever it was. But those emotions kind of stay, you know, with guys, and they need to. And so, you know, we had that post-game meeting, and I told Coach, I said, I can't snap to the next opponent until we talk about this as a defense. And so we talked about it. And we made sure everybody felt the emotions, whether it were my emotions, and they felt my emotions, I know that, or any of their peers. And I think it's okay, because we're creating that culture here on defense. And I know we're not there, and it's going to be a work in progress, and we're going to get there. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating for everybody, and like you said, they were disgusted, and that's okay, you know, because, and I think both of them will tell you, they will give up all their production for a win. And that's a credit to who they are.
So along those lines, with the motion, when you see Vildor's head in his hands on the sideline, I realize that cornerbacks need to forget pretty quick.
Yeah.
But what's the balance between him learning from what he did wrong, but not dwelling on it?
Yeah. So again, and I understand obviously the question with Kindle, and his head, but I want to reiterate that it wasn't just him. Okay, so I want to make sure that's clear, because my team knows that. Okay. Now, was he part of the problem? Yeah. Right. But it wasn't just him. And so how do you deal with that? Right. That was the question. Well, like I said, there's got to be a process for everybody to go through their emotions. Right. You can't just ignore it. But once you go through it, we got to build from it, and we got to move on. And we got to accept it, and we got to, like men, understand where we're all flawed, myself included. And then try to grow together from that. And that's really the only response we can have. Because if you go the other way, we can't really count on you. You know, we can't really count on you. And defense, as all I can speak on, is 11 men working in unison on every single play for every single second of the game. And defensive football will never change that way in football, in my experience.
Sean, as happy as you were with the defensive production, do you think there's a danger of getting a kind of a false sense of accomplishment because Lamar Jackson didn't play? I mean, doesn't that make a difference?
I think so, but I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say it's a false sense of accomplishment. I mean, they've got that backup quarterback there for a reason, right? And they've drafted him, or however, free agent, however they got him on the team for a reason, because he plays a similar style of football. Now, is he the level of Lamar? No, because if he was the level of Lamar, he'd be on another team. So that we understand. But their scheme and their philosophy and the way they called the game wasn't going to change. And it didn't change. They had their game plan in, and they ran their offense. And they hit the tendencies that they want to hit. And like I said, a lot of the alerts and the things that we knew we thought we had a beat on, they hit. And so that's why you saw the production, I think, on defense. Our guys bought into our plan of how we were going to attack this team, and they executed it for 59 minutes, you know, and when we didn't execute it for really one big play and really two plays that we didn't execute it in a PI, where we didn't execute it. And that's been our story here. And that's the story that we got to change, and it's got to change, obviously, as a collective, but really, the collective is made up of individuals, right? So everybody's, like, I think Rob or Roquan, somebody had said it earlier, and I told the guys, we got to look in the mirror, myself included, and we got to make sure that everybody's owning up to what their jobs are and their responsibilities are throughout the week. And then as we prepare, we strain mentally to prepare, because I think that's how you build mental toughness in football, is through the meeting rooms. You strain mentally through prepare, so then that shows up on game day. And we knew that was going to be a 60-plus minute game. I told you guys that the week before. They've been in 3 overtime games. We were ready for one of those, and we didn't get it there. Thank you.